Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting into order. It is 5:31 p.m. and Stephanie, whenever you're ready, we can do roll call.
Commissioner Simmons,
Here.
Commissioner Merritt,
Here.
Commissioner Dillard,
Here.
Commissioner Tassinari,
Here.
Commissioner Gathaway, you were hiding on me.
Oh, I didn't hear. I'm here. Yeah.
Thank you. And so I'm going to hand it over to our Native partners to open us up.
Omatakapi. We kind of had a little debate here about what are we going to do, how are we going to do this, because it's 2 days of meetings, and we really didn't want to close it last night. So, you know, I sang that Buffalo Nation song for us to keep moving forward, and you know, like I said, I don't decide what I'm going to sing until I get here or whatever, you know, and so we look into our heart, we try to tie our heart and mind together, and what's kind of resonating with me right now is just remembering all our ancestors that have endured before us, that got us to this point, that and somehow the Creator selected all of us to be here, and I don't believe in coincidences. It's like that way for a reason, you know, and so I wanna open the space up and to sing a song. And in this song it says, remember me. By singing these songs, remember me, right? And for us Native people, we are just trying to tap into and remember our ancestors that have got us to this point. So this is a remembrance song, is to try to remember our even our recent relatives that have crossed over. Some of us, a lot of the stuff we deal with is mourning, and the culture of America, we don't do a very good job of mourning, whether no matter where we come from. That's a major problem socially in our communities. How do we mourn somebody, right? So with that in mind, the work that we have to do into the future, and then the work we're going to do tonight, maybe what's speaking to me is like just remembering our relatives. So bear with me for a second. I'm going to ask that everybody stand up and to just think about your mothers and fathers if they've crossed over. Think about your grandparents, think about your great-great-grandparents, and etc. Try to remember them. And this song is for them, and it's also for you. All I want, kid, all I want, kid, yo ha mixo ya po, mixo ya po, hi. All I want, kid, ahiampo, mixo ya po, ahiampo, hi. All I want, kid, all I want, kid, yo ha mixo ya po, mixo ya po, hi. All I want, kid, ahiampo, mixo ya po, ahiampo, hi. All I want, kid, all I want, kid, yo ha mixo ya po, mixo ya po, hi. All I want, kid, ahiampo, mixo ya po, ahiampo, hi. All I want, kid, all I want, kid. mixuyapo, hey. Ola wakire ahiapo, mixuyapo, ahiapo, hey. All right, thank you, everybody.
Oh.
Takias.
Relatives, real quick, you sit down. Real quick, before I forget, I hate to admit it, but I'm getting forgetful, creeping up on 70 now. But what we're doing here, I might have mentioned this already. My wife, in her wisdom, she created a listening circle that I do with the youth and with the adults. And in that listening circle, how she formatted it, how she wrote it, is we don't just listen with our ears. We gotta listen with our eyes, with our heart, with our spirit, and really pay attention to what's going on with the relatives when they're talking about the traumas that they've endured. You know, those tears come out. We gotta be connected to them. So when we get to our part, when we go into a talking circle format, then I'll kind of explain that later. But I want to mention that because Eduardo did a great job last night and brought up everything, and I could just feel it. I even got online and looked at some of those the truth circles over there in South Africa. So I just want to mention that, and since Annie's the oldest one, she can go first. The elder lead us through the line. Lead us off, Annie.
It's true, I am older than T. We figured that out before this. But you guys, you might be surprised to know that like yesterday was my birthday. And so because it was my birthday, I brought some cake. So anyway, so are you really inviting me to like
Yes,
start the
yeah.
dinner? I'll just try to get up like.
Can I help you? While you're doing that, I did miss one part, and I'm going to have Wangui read the land acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Iowa City. Oh, sorry. We meet today in the community of Iowa City, which now occupies the homelands of Native American nations, to whom we owe our commitment and dedication. The area of Iowa City was within the homelands of the Iowa, Meskwaki, and Sioux. And because history is complex and time goes far beyond memory, we also acknowledge the ancient connections of many other indigenous peoples here. The history of broken treaties and forced removal that dispossessed indigenous peoples of their homelands was and is an act of colonization and genocide that we cannot erase. We implore the Iowa City community to commit to understanding and addressing these injustices as we work toward equity, restoration, and reparations.
Thank you, Commissioner Gathua. Next, I'll open for public comments, but I don't believe we have anyone that would like to make public comments. And then now I'm going to turn it over to Eduardo.
Okay, so, but actually, I wanted to ask Melinda to help us with the grounding before we enter into this topic. I think that yesterday was very, very useful, very productive to actually dedicate a couple of minutes to that so that we can again cover terrain. Melinda, I hope you heard that. Do you think you could give us a hand?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, please.
Hearing me? Okay, perfect. Okay. Greetings to everyone again. Chibu Ishwa from my language, the Muisca, out of the region of Bogota and in Colombia. We come back together tonight, 24 hours after we gathered in, and if we were in a world in order, our hearts might not be so heavy tonight. Our stress level might not be, or might be more moderate. And the place where I stand right now in the state of Maine would not be under lockdown. So we ground ourselves. I'd like to invite you to just squirm around in your chair a little bit just to get the jingle jangles out. And when you're ready to settle down, find a comfortable seat with your feet firmly planted on the earth. The eyes can gently close and find a sustainable, upright, tall spine as you come to sit well in your chair. Place your palms face down on your knees and come back to feeling that upright, sustainable, tall spine. Feel the air on your skin. Notice if it's hot, if it's cold, maybe it's just right. And how does the ground feel on the soles of your feet? What are the sounds you might hear near or far away? Bringing yourself aligned with presence in the room. And now bring your attention inward to focus on the breath. If your breath tonight was a color, what would that color be? If your breath tonight was a shape, what might that shape be? If your breath could reach out to a loved one, to whom would it reach? And if another's breath were sent to you, who would that be from? And where are you feeling the breath entering and leaving your body tonight? Is the breath coming from and going into the upper chest? Is the breath filling the lungs and the belly? Can you notice the side ribs where breath also inhabits? And what about the back body? The rib cage is round like the drum, like the sun, like the earth. And when we breathe in a full, complete breath, we fill the upper, lower, sides, and back of our bodies. What is constraining the breath tonight? Let's bring some gentle movements into the body while we're sitting at our chairs at a table. So just lift the head up, raise the chin, keeping the eyes closed. Just look up and then lower the head to look down. Take a breath in and raise the head towards the sky. And then lower the head towards the earth. And try that one more time on your own. Coming back into center. Turn the head to the right. Gently move the head center. Turn the head left. Bring the head back to center. Turning right. Coming back to center. Moving the head to the left. Returning to center. And allow the shoulders to push downward towards the floor to bring more space between the ears and the shoulder. Tension, stress finds the shoulders lifted and up towards the ears. By pushing them down, we create more space for the neck, the upper part of the spine, to lift, the head, the top of the skull, to lift higher towards the sky. And let's come back to the breath. And take it a moment to observe this breath. And did that little bit of movement in any way help to slow down the breath? Bringing in fuller inhales and allowing for deeper exhales. And I close with words from my Navajo cousins with whom I lived. In beauty I walk, with beauty before me I walk, with beauty behind me I walk, with beauty above me I walk, with beauty around me I walk. It has become beauty again. Taking in the beauty, feeling the earth, noticing the breath. And when you're ready and in your own time, you can blink your eyes open, come back to the room. We turn our attention to our speaker, Eduardo, tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melinda. That's very generous considering the situation you guys are going through in Maine. I was this morning writing with friends there, Esteran, who worked in the Maine Wabanaki Truth Commission. So many colleagues I met there when I was working with the Truth Commission, so it's been tough. It's been a tough morning here, and at the same time preparing work for tonight. So thank you so much. That was very needed.
Absolutely. Thank you. My pleasure.
So anyway, we're going to continue the conversation that we started yesterday. Let me get back to the presentation. I'm just going to show again very quickly what we covered yesterday, and then we go on to the discussion of today. And today I would like this conversation to be more practical oriented. That is, yesterday we were discussing the what, right? What is a public hearing and the why. Why would you do that, right? What would be the sense of having hearings by this commission according to what your resolution says. But today I would like to talk about the how. So yesterday we covered the why and what. Today we cover the how. How would that be actually done? What would be needed to do that? So yesterday we covered the following. First of all, starting from the very basic foundation, what are the objectives of the Truth Commission? Why do we have a Truth Commission? And we said we're going to uncover facts, we're going to protect rights, we're going to contribute to change in this community, and that is what Truth Commissions have usually attempted to do. How do you do that? Well, you're going to conduct research. You have 3 instruments according to your mandate. Sure. We're going to do fact-finding, we're going to do truth-telling, and we're going to pursue reconciliation. Those are the big tasks that you guys have ahead, and those are the enabling functions that you have according to your legal mandate. Then we said some work happens in public, some work happens closed doors. That is what typically Truth Commissions do. But starting with the South African Truth Commission, which started having public hearings, all commissions have started to have more and more and more public activities. And that has been very useful for commissions, actually. Then we discussed why commissions need to have these public activities. How is it that the commission is not going to be able to do anything without public participation, without the community? And then we discussed the types of public activities that can happen, and among those types of activities, the public hearings. There are many types of public hearings, but we focus primarily in the so-called hearings for survivors, or victim hearings, or victims, or persons who were harmed. The terminology changes from commission to commission, but basically, it's those hearings in which we listen first-person accounts around the topic that we are focused on, which in this case is racial injustice in your city. There are different hearings, of course, and you, of course, are free to decide where do you want to go, what kind of hearings do you want to have. Some commissions have done hearings for institutions instead of just persons, just individuals. For example, the Truth Commission of Colombia did hearings with the armed forces, and they invited the upper echelons of the armed forces to share their perspectives with them. There are hearings for survivors, as I mentioned. And hearings for survivors require an intentional work of support for these survivors. They have to be helped before, during, and after the hearing. And they have to participate in the creation of the hearing. That's the way of actually doing it in the right way. Commissioners, then, they need to provide a lot of leadership for this purpose. So it is the commissioners who are going to conceptualize what a hearing would look like, how the hearing would be actually carried out, and during the hearing they would decide what is going to be their role. They're going to be there to sustain, to support, to accompany, to validate the survivors' accounts. And so the role is the role of an authority in the best sense of the word. They're going to help the survivors feel that what they are saying is not something that was imagined, something that is a lie, something that is an exaggeration. The commissioners are there to receive that and to empathize with that. And then I had a short conversation on the fact that in some situations, in some cases, during a hearing or before organizing a hearing, you will have to deal with issues such as safety, security, protection, and therefore, in some cases, you will decide that perhaps you have a very interesting account, but it's not an account for a public hearing because it could be risky for the persons coming, or perhaps there are elements there that Larry wants to come in. Hello, Larry. Perhaps there are elements there that are interesting too, but require to be worked on behind closed doors in a different setting. Again, that is the Commission's decision to do that, and the Commission needs to have criteria on what are the best forums to carry out this work while at the same time protecting and at the same time not doing harm. So that is what we did yesterday. And let me see if these links work. What I wanted to show you, I hope it works. It actually does. Yay. So probably we're going to have, advertising and all that, but I wanted to make sure. How do I have volume?
Lo que les voy a relatar estarán de acuerdo conmigo en este tipo de cáncer. Es igual de mortal que otro tipo. No tengo cáncer de próstata porque soy mujer. No tengo cáncer de útero porque no tengo esa herencia, pero sí tengo cáncer del alma. Les voy a relatar una extraña pero frecuente historia.
So this is a public hearing of the Truth Commission of Colombia, and this is the hearing they organized on conflict-related sexual violence. And in this hearing, the different persons who gave statements in the way they wanted to. So some of them, for example, came together in a group to talk as a group. So they read the statement like if they were in a kind of a chorus. In some cases, they gave their text to an artist to read their statement instead of them presenting themselves in front of the commission, right? This is precisely that case. This was a testimony that was written by a victim of rape during war. She didn't want to give the statement in person, so she gave it to an artist to read it for her. And in these conditions, they prepared the setting, and she started to read. And she starts by saying, I have cancer. My cancer is not prostatic cancer because I'm a woman. It's not uterine cancer, right, because of some other reason, but I do have cancer in my soul because of what happened to me. And then she starts reading the story.
Describiré sus síntomas y les voy a describiré sus síntomas y cuando terminen de leer esto, quizás algunos terminen identificándose con el tipo de cáncer que padezco.
And so she says, I'm going not to do the whole thing, and then she says, I am going to tell you about the symptoms of my cancer, and perhaps when I do so, some of you will feel identified with the kind of symptoms I'm mentioning.
No sé desde cuándo la guerra se apoderó en nuestro país. Creo que mucho antes de que yo naciera. Y siempre me he preguntado, ¿cómo han soportado las personas desplazamientos, torturas, maltratos, violaciones por tanto tiempo? No recuerdo qué edad tenía cuando escuché la noticia del famoso collar bomba de las FARC.
She says, I have no memory on when the war started. I don't know, I was very young when I first heard the story of the so-called bomb collar. This is a particular horrific crime that happened during the war. And I don't know how people have been able to live with all these stories, with the killings, with the rapes, with the assassinations.
Creo que tenía 8 o 9 años de edad, o quizás fue solo un aniversario más del evento que anunciaba el noticiero de las 7. Creo que era el de las 7 de la noche, y perdonen, pero la memoria es un leve destello que a veces se pierde entre un recuerdo real y otro imaginario. Así que les doy el derecho de corregirme. Esa noticia me dolió en el alma, así como los secuestros, las masacres y la tortura.
So she's talking about a particular crime that happened during the war, a very, very horrendous crime. And she says, I was 8 when I heard about that crime in the TV, in the news. And I cannot tell you whether I was 8 and I was listening about the crime or I was listening about an anniversary of the crime. And memory, she says, memory is an explosion that happens and disappears, and I may be completely wrong. So this is how that hearing looked like. It is not like those images I have shown you of the hearings of the South African Commission, for example, which is the commissioner sitting on a table the statement giver sitting on another table in front of the commissioner. That looks a little bit more like what you would associate to a congressional hearing. Or perhaps it looks a little bit like a judicial hearing, right, when a person comes to give testimony. This is totally different. It looks more, I would say, theatrical, right? It's a different kind of performance. That's one way of doing it. And let me see if we can show something different. So this is the classic. This is the, oh, well, not this. I forgot for a second that we were in Iowa. I'm sure you have this kind of advertising every 5 minutes. So this is the classic hearings. These are the South African hearings. How did they look like?
We just heard on the door the police were banging with their guns and they kicking the door. And we all just jumped out. We didn't know what to do because there was no one else there. It was only the three of us.
We heard the anguish of widows, of mothers, and the victims themselves, telling tales of disappearances, of torture, murder, and of suffering.
So that is the South African case. In the South African case, as I mentioned, this is more, let's say, your standard idea of what a hearing looks like. People who come in front of these authorities, the Truth Commission, tell their stories, right? And as you see, I think that in the case of the Colombians, they're a little bit more in control of the situation, the survivors. In this one, it's they respond to the hearing. Yes? I don't know about that. Let me see. No, it's at full. Okay, all right, perfect, let's do that. And the third example.
O coronel reformado do Exército, Carlos Ustra.
That, of course, is Portuguese. And I wanted to show you this because this one is a hearing with perpetrators, actually. I mentioned yesterday that in the case of Brazil, because there was an amnesty, the perpetrators felt free to give testimony. And so the commission listened to them. And you will see that is completely different because in this case you have the commissioners asking questions, trying to get information, and a person who goes, I think, differently from what a survivor would do, a person who goes to justify himself, right? And obviously the kind of discussion that happens is entirely different. Have a look.
Em algumas das mais de 20 questões formuladas, ele silenciou.
Eu agora vou.
Isso está na apostila.
Está na apostila, está no livro, eu vou exercer o direito meu de me manter calado agora, não vou mais falar. Não.
Em outras, não se conteve e falou.
Isso que eu ia falar, mas não me contém. Esse rapaz aí, quando foi morto nessa rua, foi morto, foi atropelado, ele estava num ponto, foi atropelado por um caminhão.
Em alguns momentos houve bate-boca entre o coronel e o membro da Comissão da Verdade, Cláudio Fonteles.
Foram mortos dentro do DOI-CODE do segundo exército, sem a menor dúvida. Eu não sei se o senhor está aqui para o senhor entender o que está escrito aí ou se o senhor está aqui para me acusar. Não estou lhe acusando que não sou acusado. Eu só quero dizer o seguinte. Eu não sou... Um momento. O senhor está... agora a palavra é minha.
This one is completely different. This is confrontational, right? And it's not even confrontational in the sense that you would have in a trial, right? Where the prosecutor or the defense lawyer conducts a cross, right? It's not like that. It's more informal, right? It's dialogue confrontational. And this is again, because this is not a trial, right? The perpetrator in this case, he knows it's safe, right? In some cases, he decides not to answer. He says, I'm not going to answer. In some other cases, he says, no, I'm going to correct the record. This is not like that. He was saying, for example, that kid that you're accusing me of killing, he died because he was run over by a car, right? And in another case, he's pushing back against the commissioner who is asking him something and telling him basically, you're lying, right? So, but that is completely different from the other hearings that you have seen.
O senhor falou? Não, o senhor me perguntou se eu estou aqui para lhe acusar. Eu tenho que responder.
Carlos Ustra chegou a afirmar que se não fosse a ação do Exército, o Brasil de hoje viveria em um regime comunista, que teria sido implantado com a participação da própria presidenta Dilma Rousseff, que à época...
So this is amazing. I mean, it's really, really interesting because basically this colonel, he's a Cold Warrior, right? A person who was serving the state of Brazil, a very right-wing military dictatorship in the 70s, and he's convinced of what he was doing. And he says in his hearing that if it was not for him and people like him, Brazil would be living under a communist dictatorship, right? And he says that. So, you know what? But it's interesting and it's important because the hearing is not for him. The hearing is for the society, for the country to hear the kind of reasoning, the kind of mentalities that were active in that period. And why did these things happen? Because you had people who had that mentality and who really devalued the life of others, right? And so it's very interesting how that happens. In the United States, in one Truth Commission, the Greensboro Truth Commission, this happened too. Because in the Greensboro Truth Commission, there had already been a trial. And incredibly enough, the perpetrators were declared non-guilty. And so they cannot be tried again. And that is why they decided to come to the Truth Commission and speak about what had happened. Some of them said, yeah, we did it. Some of them justified themselves because they were already above the possibility of criminal justice. But again, that is how a perpetrator hearing would look like. Those are not the cases that we're talking about. We're talking more about the survivor hearings. And they have very different models. We need to think, how would that look like in our case? So that is what we're going to do tonight, hopefully. So first, where do hearings come in our plan as a Truth Commission? And you will see that I am using plural first person, our plan. Not because I'm a member of the commission, but because I really think that we need to be thinking in this inclusive manner. We're all together in this. And so what I was thinking is something that was mentioned yesterday, right? You have identified certain issues, certain topics in these rows here. And they can be different. Race and education, race and healthcare, race and policing, etc. And you have 3 instruments to deal with that: fact-finding, truth-telling, and reconciliation. Fact-finding is what you discussed with Larry a couple weeks ago, right? So you're going to obtain sources, you're going to examine sources, you're going to draft a report on those topics that you deem important. What are you going to do in truth-telling? Well, according to the resolution, you're going to create platforms, meaning there's going to be an opportunity for the community, probably for survivors, for experts, to talk about those events. And so your hearings may replicate what you're going to be doing when you carry out research, fact-finding. And finally, reconciliation, meaning there needs to be also an opportunity for healing. And according to your resolution, that means, for example, that you may have reconciliation or healing circles. That means also, in my opinion, that this is the place where you make proposals. So we have these issues regarding policing or healthcare or housing. These are our proposals. This is not going to be a reconciled community, a reconciled society until we do this. So those are what I think how our plan would look like and where hearings, where truth-telling comes. Is there, straight in the middle, between fact-finding and reconciliation. Now, what is needed to organize a hearing? Like the ones I just showed you. That's a picture of the Greensboro TRC. And what I think is, first of all, you decide the objectives. why are you having a hearing for? Right? You're not having a hearing just because you can have a hearing. You need to have an objective. And you need to put that in black and white in a piece of paper. This hearing is for objective 1, 2, 3. That's what we need to achieve. Right? And just as I mentioned before, look, the commission is there for protecting rights, finding facts, proposing recommendations. Well, you need to do that for your hearings. We're going to have a hearing about housing. We do it because of this. Objectives. 2, decide topics. What is the hearing about? Not just what is the hearing for, but what is the hearing about? And a chronogram, a scheduling, right? So we have 16 months as a Truth Commission, we have 12 months as a Truth Commission. How many hearings can we have in that time? When would we have them, in principle? Decide a protocol, meaning what do we do during the hearing, how it looks like, right? And decide on criteria to invite the participants, the people who are going to give statements. So, for example, your hearing is about education. You want to invite, as I said yesterday, principals, teachers, students. All right, but what criteria will you use to invite them? Do they belong to a certain school district? Do they belong to certain organizations? Do they have certain experience providing testimony, et cetera, et cetera? Those are the criteria that are needed, and that is the first task for a public hearing. This is a good internal discussion in the commission, you know, where you decide why and how would it look like. This is an example. This is how the commission, the Truth Commission of Peru, where I worked, organized its annual schedule of hearings. You will see there chronogram for implementation of public hearings 2002-2003, starts in April 2002, ends in May 2003. In the first row, you have the so-called case hearings, which were hearings for survivors. The second row is thematic hearings, hearings on different topics, on different particular kinds of human rights violations. And the last row is institutional hearings, meaning hearings with professional groups to talk about the violence in our country. And again, we were talking about a period of 20 years of armed conflict. We didn't know at that point, but it ended up being an estimate of 69,000 people killed, about 50,000 people disappeared or missing. So to put all that in a period of 15, 16 months, right? That was the task. And so what we did was we said, all right, we are going to have from April to September hearings every month in a different city. So here they are. Ayacucho, 8 and 9 of April, Huanta, 11 and 12 of April, May, the city of Huancayo, the city of Huancavelica, June, Lima, July, Tingo Maria, Agosto, Abancay, September, Chiclayo, etc. And then in sort of an overlapping way, we're going to start with the thematic hearings. People who went to jail being innocent, crimes against women, crimes against the university, crimes against the native peoples of the Amazon, disappearances, and people who were forcibly displaced. We stop in January, and then in February we start again with institutional hearings. Professional associations, armed forces, churches, political parties. So that is how the planning looked like. Again, it is super heavy because it is a national truth commission. It's not a city truth commission. We were looking into an entire country, right, and a period of 20 years of actual war, right, an internal conflict, a civil war. And obviously, you know, we did have the team to do this too, right? So, but this is how our annual planning looked like. What do you do to actually prepare the hearing? When you have decided what is the hearing for, when you have conceptualized it, which is the first thing, now it comes the actual preparation. What do you need? First, you need a budget. a little piggy bank there. You need a budget. And what is in the budget? Well, whatever needs to be in the budget according to how your hearing looks like. It may be that you need to pay a fee for the use of a location. It may be that you will need some equipment that you are going to loan or to buy. You're going to have refreshments, you're going to have transportation perhaps, hospitality for statement givers or for visitors and guests that you will have in your hearing, etc. So to give you an example, in our first public hearing, we had the presence of a South African Truth Commissioner. And the Greensboro Commission, they did have the presence of Bishop Tutu, who was in the US at that time, and so on. Second, you are going to identify partnerships. It's very difficult to do this on your own. So, for example, are you going to perhaps do it in partnership with the University of Iowa? Totally agree. Or with some NGO who is here, or with city services? I mean, you need to talk to the city, right? If it is a hearing about health coverage, well, probably you are going to have to talk to the city and co-organize that together. Faith organizations, sometimes churches do participate in this. Third, reach out to the media. So you need to inform what the hearing is about. So this is not a surprise to the community, and you help shape the kind of coverage, the kind of conversation you want to have in the media. Fourth, that is when you identify and you invite the participants, as I was saying before. First, you identify the criteria. Why am I inviting these people? What kind of people should I be inviting? But then you actually invite them. You need to go, reach out to people and say, look, we are organizing this hearing. It serves these purposes. We think that your testimony would be so valuable. Would you come? And they may say yes, they may say no, they may say, give me more information, but somebody needs to sit down with people and do that. That is the critical part. And if they say yes, then you say, so how would you like to do it? How would you feel comfortable providing your testimony? Do you want to sit down with us around a table? Do you want to do it in a different way? Do you want support? What do you need to do to give this testimony? And then finally, you need to envision the space, the run of show, so to speak. How do you think this is going to happen? You need to design that. What do I mean? So, for example, if you have a look at the, let me see. You have a look at the South African hearing. You have a look at the South African hearing. They designed everything, including the space. They decided this is a square space. We're going to take a theater. You can see the platform behind, right? And we are going to sit the commissioners in front of the survivors. And the public is going to be behind the survivors. Right? That is how the hearing looked like. They decided that. And the shape of the place conveyed a message too. It was the commission, it was the authorities of South Africa facing the people. And having people from this community talking about what happened, demanding, claiming, interrogating, accusing the state. So that is how it looked like, right? And that is why it looks that way. The Colombians did it in a different way, right? So this is different. This is more dramatic, I think, no? I mean, this was in a theater, the public was around there, the commissioners were in the first row, but this is the survivors taking the space for themselves. And it's the survivors who said, I want an artist doing it for me. I imagine it being dark. I imagine they're hearing this in silence. So that's different. But again, that depends on how you co-create that hearing with the survivors. So, but you need to envision that when you are preparing the hearing. So that is the preparatory part. You know, how much is this going to cost? I mean, let's say we have a hearing on education, right? So how does this look like? How many people do we invite? Are we going to take an evening? Are we going to take a day? What resources do we need to do this, etc. And then you implement it. You run the actual hearing. So what happens? First of all, someone is going to prepare the location. Just as you came here at 5 p.m. and someone had already organized the tables, the logistics, the microphones, this presentation, etc., you know, someone will have to do that. That will need to happen. Second, you're going to have functions because you're going to have a public. You need people to be ushers for the public. For example, we had the cooperation in the Peruvian Commission, we had the cooperation of the universities, and they selected volunteers who came and served as ushers during the work of the hearing. You will have people supporting the statement givers, you will have people helping the commissioners, etc. Then the hearing is going to have most probably some kind of an opening speech, a way of receiving people. Probably it's going to have a closing speech that needs to be prepared in advance. And in the middle, you're going to have all the testimonies. And you're going to give time for each person. And that is why it's important to talk in advance, because then you know if the person thinks, yes, Manape, just a second, the person thinks that they're going to speak for 15 minutes, or they're going to speak for 30 minutes, or it's going to be briefer. We don't know. But they are the ones who are going to give you orientation on that so that you can have an actual run of show. And you can say, all right, you know, we need 4 hours to have this hearing because we're going to receive 6 people who are going to give testimony, right? And we calculate that more or less each person is going to take 20 minutes, we're going to have a break, etc. But that is how it happens. You need to have a certain program. Just like we did a program for tonight saying we're going to have a presentation, a break, another presentation, exactly the same. There's no mystery in that, but it needs to be somewhere that you have it so that you can run that particular activity. Yes, Manape.
Would you have security? And then it probably wouldn't be a good idea to use police, but maybe more like local security groups that could be hired or formulated?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, you know, I was checking out some of my materials when
I guess it's more of a question. Did they have?
No, but I can answer, but I want to give you the answer with actual documents.
Oh, okay.
These are my original documents from the time when I was in the Truth Commission. AP is Audiencias Públicas, public hearings, right? And some of them were translated, actually. I can happily share this with you, right? But so we organize the hearings, you know, we conceptualize them, what are they for, what are the criteria selection for the people who come, right? We did that. All that we can share with you, right? Types of hearings, how do they happen, why are we doing them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what are the procedures for the hearing. All that we needed to do. And yes, we discussed the question of security. Because my unit had the dual task of organizing the hearing and providing victim protection. Now, when I went to talk to the police general who was in charge of victim protection, he informed to me that he had already about 100 witnesses he needed to protect because of ongoing prosecutions regarding corruption. Because the previous regime was not just a criminal regime in the sense that they killed people, it was criminal because they also stole a lot of money. And there were like many cases open against these people when they fell out of power. The problem is the police was already with their hands full only in corruption cases. And I asked him, he says, you know what? I have 100 people that I am protecting, supposedly. I only have 2 safe houses. And it's 100 cases, and every day the prosecutors bring me more cases. There was no way they were going to have the possibility of supporting victims in cases of human rights violations. In addition to that, since we were not a prosecutor's office, it was actually doubtful whether we could get actual legal protection for victims because we were not prosecutors. This was not a criminal law procedure. And so after our conversation, we thought, you know what, forget it, this is not going to happen. Plus, the victims don't want the police protecting them.
Right.
They don't even want uniforms in the place.
Yeah.
Right? So, in fact, when we organized the hearings, we decided there are not going to be any person with a uniform in the place. If the police wants to come and visit, perfect, in their day-to-day civilian clothes. But they are not going to have uniforms in the place because that's a trigger. And what we did, though, was to ask the police, yes, to provide external security. Right? So, yes, the area, the theater where we had the hearing, it was protected in a perimeter. So there was a perimeter where we had police forces, yes. But within the space, everything was provided by the commissioners themselves. Right? So the commission, with their volunteers, with the civil society organizations, with the NGOs of the area, they supported the survivors. They came with the survivors. They participated all the time. We had the rules about the presence of people in the place. So every person who came to the hearing, we recommended and we asked not to bring bags, for example. People, we didn't have an arch for metal or whatever, but we did ask people to come. We checked everyone to make sure that everything was fine. Right? So there were mechanisms of protection, yes, but it was not like a police protection.
Yeah, I can see where like a community security team dressed in civilian clothes, they might be the ones manning like patting people down or.
Precisely. That's exactly how it was.
Yeah.
That's exactly how it was. So before each hearing, we met with the NGOs and the human rights defenders of that given place, and we asked them, so how do you think this place is going to be securitized, right? What do we do so people feel safe here, right? And in some cases, for example, it was the unions who said, we are going to take care of that, and they put the people on at the door, at the gates, or the business community, or someone who volunteered and said, we are going to take care of that, right? So yeah, that's a good question, Manape, thank you. And remind me to send you this example.
All right.
I'm lucky that we translated that at the time. And, okay, here we go again. So yeah, that's the preparatory phase. First you conceptualize, you decide what is the hearing for, then you actually prepare. Budget, location, partners, media, the people you're going to invite. The implementation, which is the actual event, right? So you have a day or you have 2 days, and this is what you're going to do. There are something that I have called complements. It's not the right word, honestly, but the hearing is not just sharing information. It's something else. It's supposed to have a healing component too, right? And so, are there going to be other activities aside of the actual reception of statements? What else is going to happen? So the ritual around it, and this is an event of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada. And you have the elders conducting a ceremony with the commissioners. That's Commissioner Littlechild there, that's Commissioner Marie Sinclair. You cannot see the face of Commissioner Mary Wilson behind, but they are all receiving the blessing, the medicine by an elder of the Assembly of First Nations, right? So that also needs to be organized, right? So there needs to be a role. You already have incorporated in all the meetings of the Truth Commission the recognition of the land, for example. So you're probably going to have that at the hearing too, right? There's probably going to be grounding. There's probably going to be a way of thanking people And the other thing is, would you invite the community to do something aside of the hearing? So for example, we did have a hearing in a place, in the case of Peru, but during that day, people organized a fair outside, right? Where they made presentations, where there was theater, where there were activities. So would you do that? And then finally, follow up, what happens after the hearing. That is a demonstration in Canada a year after the work of the Truth Commission. And these are the people who came out to demand that the government of Canada complies with the recommendations of the Commission. Oh. That is what you aim to. I mean, a commission is an opportunity to strengthen a community, to strengthen a social movement. You know, in this case, the commission ended up with recommendations which became a platform for this community to come and demand their compliance. So what happens after the hearing, right? Well, first, the practical things. You have a hearing, this needs to be recorded, filed, transcribed, etc. You need to have a place, a repository of this information that you have received in the hearing. So after the work of the Truth Commission, you know, let me go back to the internet. You have something like this. This is the work of this is the website of the Peruvian Truth Commission. You go to public hearings, right? And you have the different hearings. And for each hearing, you have the transcript. Right, so at the end of each hearing, you need to make sure, as a follow-up, that the information is never going to be lost. That the information is going to be there, usable for you and for the community. Right, so that's first thing. Ensure that that happens, that it is filed concretely, appropriately, and that you're going to check in with the people who came. So you want to make sure that people are not being re-traumatized. You're going to make sure that people have something else to tell you. That is, you know what, I really did like going to this hearing. I felt empowered, and I want to now write something, or I want to participate in another event, or I want to organize something with my community, whatever it is. In this case, in the case of Canada, I think this is wonderful, right? I mean, people really felt empowered by those activities, and they decided, even when the commission didn't exist anymore, we're going to the streets. So that is what I want to share. How long does it take to do all that? Those are the steps that I mentioned. Conceptualize a hearing, prepare, implement. What are the complements? What's the follow-up? How long does it take? You know, if I go back to my documents, let me see, right? Our first hearing was in April 2002. But we made this calendar in January 2002. So we took 3-4 months to organize the first hearing, this one, in the city of Ayacucho. It took us 4 months because we hadn't organized any hearing before this one. Once we did the first one, we started to organize the second one, the third one, etc., right? But once we had one done, like this is the model, this is the test, so to speak, this is the test hearing, the other ones came very, I should say, easily, actually. The first one was a difficult one, right? Because we needed to put in place the systems to actually do that. But the rest just came easily, because now we knew. We had rules of procedure, we had a run of show, we had a division of labor, we had partnerships, and then that is how we were able to organize all those hearings in 12, 14, 15 months. The commission ended its work in August 2003. So this is an actual real document, right? And again, from January to April, it's the time that took us to organize the first hearing. But then while we were organizing the first hearing, we also started with the second. When we were doing the second, we were also organizing the third, and so on and so forth, right? But it required a lot of work. So, oops, sorry. So that's the question of how long does it take, right? Here it is. Yeah. It would be great, to starting tonight, to have this discussion, conceptualization, right? So, okay, let's decide. Do we want a hearing? Do we think that can be useful, right? How do we do the truth telling? And how would that look like? And then we divide the tasks. Who is going to help? How are we going to invite people to come? Perhaps we reach out to University of Iowa. Perhaps we reach out to the faith community and so on. When do we do it? How do we do it? How does it look like? And then who is going to follow up with the people who come? And that's the hearing. And depending on that, on how does this take, you will decide, well, we have been extended in our mandate until the end of 2024. So is that time for two hearings, for 3 hearings, for 4 hearings? I don't know. That depends on you. Right? But you decide based on whether you want a very complex hearing like the ones I have shown you, which obviously are complex because they are hearings of a national level truth commission. Local level truth commissions are presumably a bit simpler to run. Right? The Greensboro Truth Commission didn't have to look into 20 years of a civil war, right, which was our case. The Greensboro Truth Commission looked into one event, one killing, one day of 1979. The killing in November in 1979, the killing of union leaders, right? And so, because of that, the hearings they organized were more focused, simpler in a way. And it took also less time, less resources to organize that. But they did organize a hearing. So I propose that we work on an example. Took me a while to find a good picture of Iowa City. There are so many pictures around. Anyway, so this is my proposal. That you guys now organize in couples, 2 people each, right? And each of these 2 people teams answer to one question. And those questions are, we organize a hearing, what should we do regarding the 5 elements that I have mentioned? Conceptualization, preparation, implementation, the complements or rituals, and the follow-up. And this means that since you already started discussing topics, racial justice and whatever topic, we now decide, okay, let's, as an example, not as a decision, as an example, think of a topic. So I put here a few options. Racial injustice and health coverage, that's one possibility. Racial injustice and educational quality. Racial injustice and policing. Racial injustice and technological and infrastructure gaps, right? I mean, a few things, racial injustice and environmental justice. Right? I don't know. Why don't we decide here one example, one topic, and then we organize 5 groups, and each group is going to answer one question. And let me put those questions here. The group on conceptualization, that's a public hearing of the Gambia Truth Commission. 2 questions. Let's say it's a hearing on topic X. What are the objectives of this hearing on this topic? Second, what's the profile of statement giver you think would be the most appropriate? Who would you invite? Why? What type of person do you want to have in this hearing? That's for one group. Second, preparation. So that group will discuss the following questions. Who will reach out to potential participants? what NGOs, academia, city services here concretely could be involved. How do we tell the media? How do we inform them? And how do we approach the statement givers? The third pair is going to discuss implementation. What do you want the hearing to look like? What's the space going to look like? Like the South African Commission, like the Colombian Commission, something in the middle, like the Brazilian Commission, I don't know. What will each commissioner do during the hearing? So you are the commissioners, what are you expecting to do during the hearing? Are you going to make questions? Are you going to support the participants? Are you going to just listen, etc.? How long will it take? Is this a one-day hearing, a two-day hearing? What kind of activities do you want? Will we have speeches? Will we have another kind of activity? Another group, the complements, what I have called the complements, the rituality, let's say. Right? So is there any organization in the city that can help us envisioning those rituals? The native community, the poets of the city. I mean, this is a city famous for its poetry programs, right? I mean, it's the place where most famous American poets have come to read, to create. It's unthinkable to me that any institution would do something without tapping on that enormous potential, right? It's like, I don't know, organizing an event in New Orleans without music, right? Or without food, or without, it's impossible. So anyway, you know, I was thinking of the poetry slams that you have here, right? Should there be any additional activities? You know, would you invite people to do a festival, to do something around the hearing? And finally, what are you prepared to do for follow-up? How would you ensure that there is follow-up? Let's say you have a hearing with 6 statement givers, 5 statement givers. How do you ensure that they are going to, that the commission is going to follow up with them? Are you going to invite the group together? Are you going to do house visits? What do you think you're going to do? And who would be your partners for this? Is there a mental health group in the community? Is there, religious, faith-based organization that can reach out to people, et cetera, et cetera? So that's the idea. Those are the 5 sets of questions, let's say. And what I would propose is, based on how many commissioners we have here, we have pairs, 5 pairs, and if there is more, well, one group may have 3 people, I don't know. And we have, I don't know, 15 minutes to have that discussion, and then we present to the group what our initial ideas are. Again, this is just an example. This is just testing the idea. This is not a decision-making event. This is just a conceptualizing and envisioning event. All right, what do you think? And we can take the lights on now.
Light man.
Also, I don't know, let me see, let me stop sharing for a minute. Who is there in the, okay, I see Dave, I see Melinda. Okay, so in case, Melinda, Dave, perhaps you want to add something to the presentation before we go on the actual example. Please let me know if you would like to add something. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's really helpful to think about what things you would like to do. You know, particularly like what are you going to be doing during the commissions, during the hearings. So Eduardo, that was really, I think, really supportive what you shared, and I'm excited to see what you all come up with. And in my session coming up next, we'll be doing some real-time thinking that this exercise is helping, I think, you all get ready for. This is really exciting. It's happening. You're putting it on paper. so excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. I think it's going to be a great exercise when the one you're going to lead. Melinda, in your case, do you want something to add?
Well, yeah, that was incredible. I think that how I understood it is the importance of taking a culturally relevant approach. What is the community? It really situates the knowledge in your community in Iowa City and ask the question, what is appropriate for this location for our people? And you've offered so many varieties to choose from, and or at least to give the idea of the possibilities. And I think that was pretty awesome. I learned a lot from your presentation myself. And I think that and I think where Dave is going to take us next in envisioning is a beautiful follow-up step.
Awesome. So before we go into the example, are there also ideas, interventions, questions, opinions in the group? Yes, Manape?
So that last slide that you showed with like the steps and things.
Could you speak on the microphone?
Yes,
so
yes.
Our friends can help you and listen.
So that last slide, I guess, where you showed some of the steps, yes. And you talked about how we're going to have to. Now, the commission kind of puts that together, but our role is advising the commission on what that could be or options. But for the most part, the commission would kind of compile all this, and we're just kind of filling in some of those gaps a little bit, and then they would fine tune, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Exactly. Yeah, and again, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on you guys. This is just, again, let me see here, just a second. Yeah. So, yeah, we're just envisioning. That's all we're doing, right? And so we have 5 commissioners here. What I would say is each of the commissioners choose a partner, and we start thinking of the questions that we have put there, and at the end we share, and we see where that looks like a possible, feasible public hearing. Yes?
Okay, and this might be partially because of how my brain works and stuff, but we have our commissioners, which are, the true TRC right now, volunteers, have day jobs, whatever else, and we're talking about these hearings and whatever the topics or issues that we're going to be addressing. And so in my brain, I'm seeing like there's the TRC that I would like to have to be able to do some of these topics that are crucial to Iowa City. And then there's sort of the reality, are the existing commissioners, and to what extent that are we able to do some of these things that we're talking about, this little conceptualization and envisioning. Mm-hmm. And so I'm doing this task right now, so I'm thinking like, well, there's the one I'd like, whatever else, and what are we physically capable of doing with the resources, the time, and everything that we have.
Correct.
So
I get it. It's a very existential question, right? Can we actually do it? And but I think it is important to do the exercise precisely to identify the needs. So if we do the exercise, we say this is how a hearing would look like, this is what a hearing would necessitate, then we can have the needs. Then we can say, all right, this requires a budget, this requires people, this is what we need to ensure the city provides for having an actual hearing, So let's dare to imagine, and if that works, great, But for starters, we need to imagine it. If we don't imagine, it's not going to happen. And perhaps if we imagine it doesn't happen, but for it to happen, it needs to be imagined first. So, yeah, we have 5 commissioners, no? Why don't we reorganize the sitting arrangement so everyone has a partner? And we start having the conversations, and these are the questions here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Honestly, I don't know how to divide the questions. Perhaps we just do it randomly, or you guys volunteer on what is the set of questions you want to take on. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll volunteer for implementation
Great, awesome.
to start it off.
We have implementation.
Can you go back to
Takers.
the list?
Huh?
Go back to the list, please.
Conceptualization?
No, go back to the list.
A second, I want to take note, sorry. So, okay. So, again, it's conceptualization, preparation, implementation, complements, that is rituals, and follow-up. And it's here, conceptualization, objectives, preparation, how does it happen, implementation, what happens in the day of the hearing, the complements, the rituals, and the follow-up. So I have one taker for implementation.
I can, I can raise my hand for follow-up, and what was the one before follow-up?
Compliments or ritual?
Yeah,
Rituals, complements.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but I want commissioners as takers too, eh? So,
What was the second one?
wait a second, follow up.
Here, preparation.
Okay. So you are taking preparation?
I wanted to know what the second one was.
That one?
Yeah.
Preparation is who will reach out to potential participants, what groups would be partners for this, how do we work with the media, how do we approach statement givers. That's
Yeah.
preparation.
I'll do that
you
one.
take it? So chastity for prep. That's chastity. Yes.
The conceptualization.
Okay, so that's the first one. Oh, you're the brave one because that's the that's the one everything depends off.
Yeah, whichever commissioner wants to do those last
Yeah,
two, right?
there is the one who there are 2 points that are still not taken. So conceptualization, preparation, implementation, and we still need for rituals and for follow-up. Who volunteers? And we have 2 commissioners left. You guys.
So Wangui went to the bathroom, I think, and so Chad gets to choose, and then Wangui gets whatever is left, I guess.
So, Chad, another colleague, what would you like to take on?
And Amos is a guest. He's not actually commissioner.
It's not yet.
No,
You're-
not yet.
You'll be a
Not
partner.
yet.
You'll partner with somebody.
Okay, we will take on that one then. But ritual complementation of the hearing and follow-up. Chad, what do you want to take?
So I'm trying to make sure I have my mind wrapped around what you're asking. You're asking to put something together, and you want each of us to take a part.
Yeah, I'm asking
Thing that we're
to
putting together.
develop an example of a potential public hearing, how it would look like.
So it's one situation, and each of us have one of the 5 parts.
Yes.
And what's available?
So it is, let me show you. Conceptualization that is already taken. What are the objectives of the hearings? Preparation that is already taken. You know, what is needed to have a hearing. Implementation, that is what happens during the hearing, that's taken too. And the 2 that we need to assign are the complements to the hearing, which is basically the rituals, the other activities that will happen, and the follow-up. what will happen after the hearing. So
I'll do the follow-up.
you'll do the follow-up? That's great, awesome. To chat, follow-up. Right. And then we would need volunteers to partner with the commissioners. Would you take the fourth topic?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
No.
Sorry, what?
I already claimed her.
One GUI. She's just in the back.
Who took it?
One GUI. She's not here.
Okay.
But you can join whoever you want.
So we will do that.
Sure.
I already claimed Laura.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So why don't we take a few minutes just to reorganize
Oh.
and,
Could you put the slide that has all 5?
yeah.
I'm on preparation. Is that what interests you?
Oh, wait. There you are.
Did we, Eduardo, choose a topic?
Yes, this is your previous thing. So you have a few topics that you have already identified when you were talking with Larry. What would be one topic that you would be interested in using as the example? A hearing on what? On what particular?
I think police would probably be the,
I was gonna vote education, but.
okay, let's do that.
But, but if anyone else wants to do something else, I don't care. So it's just an example, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys need like a refresher on what we did with Larry?
I don't think we need that right now.
Education.
Education, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I think she's, actually, I see her talking. I think she's talking.
I know those doors locked, that's why. I'll just try it.
All right, so we're waiting for Wangui.
Yeah, but we can start.
And are you all agreeing that the example would be about racial justice and education in the city? Yeah?
Sounds good.
All right,
Sure.
awesome. So on that, then each commissioner with a partner has, let's say, 15 minutes to come with a first initial idea. All right? Wonderful. So who sits with whom? Please go ahead. Manape, you were going to work follow-up, right?
No,
No?
no, I relinquished that because I realized it was for the, commissioners and I believe,
Yeah, but the commissioners will need a partner, so why don't you work with Chad and on that?
yeah.
All right, awesome. Yeah, who
Who's
can?
doing compliment?
I think compliment is that Wangui?
Wangui.
Yep.
Ritual.
I'll have to catch you up, yeah.
All right, preparation.
Well, T is already with Wangui, no?
Okay, great. I have my, I was using my laptop. That one.
Right. V, are you working with?
Yep.
So everyone has a partner.
Anybody need paper?
Yes, please.
Looks like everybody has a partner now. Make sure that everybody has paper. And I'm going to make sure to, look, if you want again the questions or just let me know. I can project it. Yeah, why don't you take pictures of the questions in your cell phones? Can you lower the light a little bit so I can show again I will show again the questions and you can take pictures with your cell phones on the question for your group. Okay, so those are the 5 topics. You know what's the question you're going to answer, and these are the actual questions. This is for conceptualization, the group working on conceptualization. Those are the 2 questions. That's you, Chastity, right?
No, the next, no, that's us.
That's okay. All right, great. This is preparation. Those are the questions. You got it, Chastity? This one is implementation. Those are the questions. Please take the picture of the questions. This is complements to the hearing, rituality, and so on. Wangui, that's for you. Please take the picture of the questions.
Leave it up there real quick.
And the final follow-up. This one's for you, Chad.
I'll send it to you.
Those will be the two questions. And all right, so we have 15 minutes to come with a few very, very initial draft ideas.
We're doing racial justice and education.
Thank you, guys.
Everyone. Okay. Racial justice and education, but you're just looking at that one part. Okay. We're freezing. last
Awesome.
time.
So, Dave and colleagues, now we're going to start sharing the ideas that we have discussed in our groups. Again, remember, this is just an example, no pressure. This is our first ideas, our first draft thoughts about how would a public hearing look like, what would be the challenges, how do we think we could fix those difficulties and organize an actual hearing. And the example is a hearing on racial injustice and education in our city. Again, racial injustice and education. So in our example, the commission decides to have a hearing on racial injustice and education. So first we hear from the group that worked on the conceptualization. Why that hearing? What would be the objectives? What the kind of statement givers that you would think would be the most appropriate? So we listen to you guys.
Okay, so when I first thought about, okay, we're doing education, and I wanted to think about Iowa City, and so I wanted to think about what incidences that have happened, and I just now realized how it was almost a year ago, because it was about Thanksgiving last year. Where the time went, I'm not sure. Now the particular situation was, the teacher who had the students act out, basically a powwow, I think it's kind of what it was. And so when I was thinking about, the hearing and how the objectives here, one thing we didn't want to make it sound like either a performance review of the teachers, or we wanted to be a little bit more positive, but a way of like opening eyes of the educators to, if they've got a curriculum, they have students they have to teach, and before they just go right in a way that they think is supposed to go, kind of stop and think, is this the right way to do it? Is there a possibility that this could be, stepping on somebody else's toes or being culturally inappropriate? All these kind of questions that they have to have some critical thinking before just kind of doing. So, let's see. Yeah, think before giving an assignment. Could it be offensive? What did you write? Not consider the other population.
Oh, do they know how to escalate?
Oh, one thing, talking about a normative lens. Let's see. Consider your audience. Thinking critically. Being open to feedback. Know how to vet and escalate. Are you the right teacher to do the education project, whatever else you're doing? Considering the impacts, the framework of, what is that framework that, anyway.
You want me to?
That's good enough. So,
Do you want me to say
okay.
Please feel free to add as needed. Huh?
So are you, I don't want to
No.
step on your
No,
toes. Okay.
go ahead.
So we're looking at it in a sense of, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, the majority of time the teachers are doing things that are inappropriate. We want to assume that they did not intend to be that way. And so we want to come into this allowing them to have the safest space to take ownership and accountability and to learn and grow. So one of those things, so I kind of talked about when we're doing our interviews to see who wants to be part of the hearing or who we will choose, we're hoping to find the ones who really didn't mean to. I mean, you know, if they're like, no CRT and Kim Reynolds is my homie, we probably aren't going to get anywhere with that person. But if they're like, man, I messed up and I didn't mean to, let's bring them in and let them hear from the students what has come from their actions. And we also talked about like creating that space, so laying out some information to create that atmosphere before we start the hearing. So this is not to attack you. This is really, honestly, we're trying to learn, we're trying to grow, we're trying to make a good, safe community, and this is what this is about, right? So trying to kind of ease that defensiveness before it even pops up.
Yeah, and so we talked the question about what is the profile of the statement giver. You know, so I think about when my girls were in school, because they had examples of, not that I want to say like, there's the good teachers, but you know, the teachers that, you know, they did it right. Yeah, and if you talk to any of the students, they'll let you know who are the good teachers and who are the ones that, whatever else. So, so it'd be nice if there were, obviously we're talking about depending on the age group, but if there were students that would be able to give examples of, you know, the good assignments, the ones that worked right, worked correctly, and then if there are ones that, you know, talk about, yeah, this one wasn't a good idea, you know. And then also it would be nice if there were, you know, so the teachers that I'm gonna say do it the quote unquote right way, whatever else. If you have those teachers to talk about, you know, why did they do it the way they did it? You know, how did they know how to do it? You know, those kind of things.
Maybe what resources they had available to them.
Exactly. And then now the hard ones are going to be like the teachers who are going to be willing to step forward and want to admit that they don't know how to do it. They don't have the resources. They don't know where to go. You know, having to admit, you know, that. You know, but it'd be nice if we had ones that would be able to step forward to say that, you know, I really would like to be able to do this, but I have no clue. You know, that was sort of our idea. We're talking about some of the profile of the statement givers. So.
Excellent. Wow, great. So it's two things that I really think are very interesting. One, that you are thinking of this motivated by concrete cases, by concrete situations that have been lived in the community. It's not theoretical. Second, that you realize that the work of the commission is restorative justice. That is, this is not a trial, it's not a tribunal, right? It's not that you are putting someone on trial. And people who act in this way, yeah, they're people, but they're also within a system. And what the commission is here to do is to look at that system and to help dismount that system, right? So super interesting. Thank you so much, you guys. And why don't we go to the next group, which is going to discuss about preparation. And that was Chastity.
So it's me and Amos, and we answered the questions on racial justice and education. The first one, who will reach out to potential participants. And so we start talking about, it starts with the commission, and then it branches out to churches, mosques, religious entities, because they have parents, and a lot of those parents are immigrants, and other people in the community, the nonprofits that we've already talked to, but expanding upon that, and talking more to them about their involvement with the communities that we're trying to reach out to, ethnic associations, obviously the city, all the different commissions within the city, and city officials, everything to do with the city, youth associations, the school district. Later on, we did talk about like the University of Iowa and Kirkwood as well, and like their DEI departments. And am I missing anything?
No, you're fine.
Okay. So we talked about that, and then we moved on to the second question, or part of that, how will they participate? And we kind of just talked about how overarching we need to be able to make a case, like a needs statement, like really get people on board. The buy-in is what we're missing, and how to prepare for the preparation, we need to get all that buy-in first. And so, what else? What am I missing? Yes, and then the next question was what NGOs, academia would be involved, and how do we secure the partnership? That all comes back to like that needs, that case statement, and maybe we need to go around and do some presentations to people, or just like really involve the community more before we can move to this part to prep for the public hearings is what we talked about. How do we identify the leaders in the area? Well, actually, that's another thing we talked about is we really need to identify the leaders in each group or community or who we want to attract to this and really talk to them, because they're the ones that have the trust. And so we need to build that trust so we can, continue our mission on this. And the last thing we talked about, how do we inform the media? And when we talked about this, we really felt maybe we wouldn't really want the media as involved in this. We want to make people feel safe, and definitely make sure whatever we do, we're prepping our participants and making them feel safe with different options, and just discuss with them that if they do talk, it's going to be public information. So, yeah.
I guess one thing I was thinking about with the media is where you can also utilize the media to convey the message you want to do, and that's, we're talking about press releases. You write what you want to say, and you do the press releases to get the word out, so it's using the media as the tool, but you're the one that's giving the message, and that way you know there's not going to be any misrepresentation or of the situation, that kind of thing.
Okay, so part of, she's talked about the entities, the need to convince people and prepare them on issues like that, but in each area, we are going to go back to what we discussed with Larry on the facts again, because it really helps us, gives us a framework on which areas to negotiate with these entities. They could be school children, teachers, parents who take their kids to school, parents who are attending schools, and so that they know that these are the parameters we are working on. The community, or some people have this feeling, it's like an hypothesis that there's this problem in here. We might have data, we might not have. We can show them there seems to be a problem with the police here. And we want to ask you, would you have any information? So we are going to use that too. We don't want to just pick 3 or 4. We want to really give them the freedom to talk about anything on the area of education, maybe school bullying, teacher punishment, absenteeism, maybe being picked, or whatever. You hear things kids complain about in school. This teacher does this to me, and this and this. So we have to make sure that happens, and we use the school counselors and other things to prepare safe spaces. We promise them that something like that, where the kids can talk about stuff like that, if they have had cases like that, and. So, but we give the parents and the kids room to choose how they want to do it.
Great. Wow. That's it. Excellent. I think later I'm going to say something about the media, but yeah, great. Thank you. Let's go to implementation.
Yes. So we also just addressed each of the questions. The first one, how will the space look, or what will the space look like? We had a number of different options. We thought about contacting community theaters. We also thought about contacting Film Scene in particular, since they have a variety of different venues. Reaching out a little bit differently, there's a number of places within, not too distant from Iowa City, that have very nice sort of domed barn-like structures in natural settings, which might also be an interesting approach. There's the Shakespeare Theater that's down in the park, and there's also Hansher as another place to try to contact. Second question, what will each commissioner do during the hearing? Number 1, attend every hearing. Number 2, they will extend personal invitations to all the people who are going to be speaking, but they'll do that in partnership with a trusted person from the respective community. So it isn't just a cold call from a commissioner. There's someone else working with them. The commissioners will also be actively involved in the design and the curation of the spaces, whichever spaces are being used. The commissioners would also be involved in ensuring that there was some kind of trauma-informed support in whatever venue is chosen. And then possibly also reaching out to various places to do some interesting creative things, such as maybe contacting the U of I School of Social Work to see if we could use some of their students to be as ushers at the events. Again, sort of just kind of make all the connections we can.
Training up the young ones, which I think what Danielle has said.
Right, yeah.
Right, training up the young ones.
Yeah. In terms of how long will it take, not less than 4 hours, not more than 8 hours. And in terms of formal speeches, we tended to think that those should be on the short rather than long side. Again, to put a frame on it, no less than 3, no more than 10 minutes. But they should clearly be focused on framing the event and making the connection with the community and the survivors. And also maybe being told that part of what they need to show the community in that speech is not necessarily how good a speaker they are or how knowledgeable they are, but more about how vulnerable they are, to engender more trust. And then in all cases, end with a sincere thanks to the public. And these potentially could be essentially duplicated at each of the different venues, but they would always be modified in some ways to be more spontaneous and more authentic.
Cool. Thank you so much. So let's go to the complementary activities and ritual activities. And I understand this gazebo is here in Iowa, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, we answered 2 questions in relation to rituals and complements. Who can help design healing and recognition? Already, we are working with our native partners. So that was our answer. And Terry told me about we can have a fire and sage and help people work on shedding tears, and then afterwards have a healing ritual. I'm repeating what I was being taught, but not very strange to me because it resonates with my African way of healing. And of course, then the other question was, should there be additional activities by the community? Terry said we can also learn and teach and do. He gave an example of African healing rituals and activities. And from there, we went to, when we're healing, he gave an example of mental health where in this country, and I remember 20 years ago, mental health healing is very Eurocentric. But he said, as we do, it's Eurocentric based on the Christian Bible and the DSM-5. And I don't know whether Terry, when we're doing that, you know, I'm a counselor educator teaching Eurocentric ways. So you're really preaching to me and reminding me what I teach my students, and even me, I'm a licensed school counselor in Iowa. So as I work with people who are different, and reminding, most of my students are Caucasians, so reminding them when you work with people who are culturally different from you, whatever the difference is, to be client-centered. So bringing it back to our rituals and compliments, to not assume that it has to be based on the Christian Bible or on the DSM-5. And we've already come a long way by incorporating in our facilitators, having Native partners. So in the other activities, we would also include other harmed people-centered ways of healing and rituals. I think that's what we did.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
I must say, I really like how the hearing is looking like. Excellent. So, and follow-up. After the hearing, what would happen?
Let me just add one little thing, because when Terry told me about the African way of healing, one thing the University of Iowa does every year, in Hansha, they always invite the Soweto Township Choir from South Africa. And they always, in the education piece of it, and it's powerful. If you've never gone, please go spend about 3 hours there. It's an experience. So they always say, but also sad, because they always say, fighting apartheid, which is the African way of doing. We use body movement, and we use song and dance, which resonates very much with the Native way from what I've been learning. So they come there and they tell the story of apartheid, because it's not gone yet. It was only 1993 when it ended. It ended legally, but it's still there. So they still use song and dance to tell the whole world about all that, and to heal themselves, and to heal the world, and to heal others. So thank you, Terry, for reminding me that it's not DSM-4 and the Bible that can do healing. And when I work with somebody else who's different from me, to center it on them. Yeah, I was giving that example to give an example of how some of the things we will choose what to incorporate. I'm done, Eduardo.
Thank you so much. I doubt you're done, because there's so much to discuss about.
An important
Please.
aspect from the community we're going to deal with. And I talked to a lady, she's from Congo. Most of the ladies from Congo have gone through all kinds of refugee camps, either in Tanzania, Kenya, everywhere. And some have lost their husbands, their children. And she told me that they use music in Congo. These are usually the Congolese are the best music performers and composers in the country, in the continent. I'm not saying I'm from Kenya, I'm not from Congo. But she told me that music has been the top number one thing they use to comfort, go through the trauma and other things. So I just wanted to add to that as part of the healing, for supporting that, those people, especially, they are the majority, apart from the Sudanese, the Congolese are now the majority in Iowa City here. Yeah, such things, like you said, should be incorporated.
Cool. Thank you so much. Well, again, I really like how the hearing is looking like. Chad, please. And you were with Annie? Okay.
So I do want to emphasize the importance of it being culturally relevant to the groups that we're working with. I think that's critically important. But what we talked about is expanding kind of the use of our healing circles to be able to make sure that people were well and were a part of the process of reconciliation. We talked about there being at least three or four additional individuals that would be a part of this group. First, you would have people who were, whether it was from the institution or whether it's or people who were sharing their truth as far as who were impacted, or those who were deemed as individuals that created some of the challenges, that these individuals would be a part of one group. And if they felt comfortable, as well as maybe others that we would suggest or recommend. And so they would be a part of one group. But we also thought that it should be someone who is helping facilitate the circle, someone who is helping manage and monitor the well-being of the individuals there. And there would be at least one, but no more than the trigger that requires there to be public view, but at least one commissioner that would be a part of the overall experience. What they would do is that they would, again, check in on each other, but also as there's resolutions that would happen or there's solutions that would come to play, they would be the first group that would be able to get a chance to hear some of the solutions so we could understand what the unintended results would be of trying to implement that type of solution. So that's kind of what our thinking was long term.
Great. So listen, completely honest here, I didn't think that your answers were going to be so detailed. I really thought it was going to be way more tentative, if you want. But it seems that, well, first of all, you chose a topic you really know, right? So you have it in your mind. You're thinking of students, teachers, the principals, institutions. You know that. And because it's a topic you know, you felt comfortable about imagining how the hearing would look like. It's very detailed, very, very detailed, actually. And what I would like to do, if you feel this is useful, is with Lois Grace, we're going to take note of all the things you have said, put it together in the form of an actual run-off show, right? So that you see what you have done right now. And you have an idea of, how would a hearing look like. So we are thinking about models, right? And since the questions are going to be the same for all the hearings, you have a template already. So this is a discussion, the example is education, no? But you can use this for healthcare, you can use this for housing, you can use this for whatever other topics. The other reflection is, since now you know more or less what it would take, now you have an idea of, well, this is going to take so much time to organize, so many resources to organize, etc. So in the year we have ahead, 2024, can we organize 2 of these, 3 of these? That depends on you. Right? But again, it's you who now, having in mind how it looks like, you can, on a basis of something realistic, decide. And last reflection. Typically, when I do this work, the next thing I do, and I would like to see if this is interesting for you, is a simulation. So we put together what we have envisioned, and we assign roles. Some of us are going to be commissioners, some of us are going to be statement givers, some of us are going to be public. We get around and we test. How would it look like? Right? And on the basis of that, we adjust the idea and then we start actually working on it. Mm-hmm. That is the practical things. The budget, the tasks, who are our partners, et cetera, when do we do it, blah, blah. But so right now we are not going to do that. Now we have the envisioning exercise with Dave. But I for sure would like the next time I'm here to actually do the simulation. And just to start putting in concrete form on paper, how would a hearing look like and how many hearings would you think would happen, etc. But in the next few days, I'm going to make sure that Lois Grace sends you the summary of what you have discussed today in the form of the hearing. I will be sharing the presentation, and also I'm going to share these documents that I promised you, what we actually did in the hearings of Peru, so you have an idea of what we had to do before we actually ran the public hearing. So this is my point. Thank you. Yes, Lois Grace?
If you guys are willing also, like the little, I know some of you took notes, if you could give that to me, that would be great, because I'm just writing like rough ideas.
Eduardo?
Yep.
I think I wanted to make a point to the group here is that when we were discussing things, it kind of dawned on me that what Eduardo showed us earlier for examples were like national initiatives. And some of those were based on very recent war, right? And, you know, I told Chad and Ann that, you know, like what we're doing, don't compare this to like a big national thing like that. And there was a bit of comfort we found because we felt like, holy crap, how are we going to do this? But we're leveraging that with what you presented to us. And so we felt a little bit better, I think, realizing that this is more like a local thing, not like a big national thing.
Yes.
But also, just to kind of add to what Chad had discussed, a couple things. I feel like the follow-up is, I feel like the complement piece is the transition point from truth to reconciliation, and follow-up is the doorway to reconciliation, right? And complementing is like the culmination of the truth. And I feel like the people have shared their piece as best they could. And there's probably not much juice you can squeeze out of that afterwards. So I think like I don't want to say the hard task, but it seems pretty hard for me, like it's almost like the real work begins where the whole community is involved in communicating with one another. And a great example is he brought up, you know, mental health folks, professionals. You know, we talked about the DSM-5, right? And then they talked about healing circles and things. To me, that seems like a merger of like academic professionals with more grassroots. Somewhere this has to merge, because they tell us on the Indian end, they tell us, well, Sweat Lodge is great, but there's no real proof there's no scientific proof that it really helps anybody. But it's been around for 40,000 years. And it's still here. We still utilize it. And people sober up, people have cures happen, but you can't quantify it. And to me, when I hear that quantifying, that means, well, you can't put money on it, right? I feel like the follow-up is like a piece where some of these gaps happen. You can do all this truth. You can speak all the truth, but then the system's still the system, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this is part of the reconciliation to the system where professionals and more grassroots can kind of merge their perspectives a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I also feel like that merging, or even if it doesn't merge, how does it translate to policy change? Yes. Mm-hmm. Right? So that was one thing I come up and whispered to Ann, was what I forgot to mention was policy changes, mm-hmm. right? And how do we, again, we're going to end up depending on the dominant society's methods for them to change that, mm-hmm. you know? And And quite often, it's all good up until you start messing with policy. You know, so I just wanted to share some of that, that added piece about policy and the perspective about what this means, follow-up, complementing, the culmination and the entering into that new phase.
Quick question, Eduardo.
Yes, please.
Of the 44 task forces and TRCs in the USA, is there one that's already done? That's a creation of the local government?
Yeah.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, so for example, right now something that would be perfectly possible to find and to share is there was a Truth Commission created by the Legislative Assembly of Maryland. In Maryland, they did a Truth Commission on the history of lynchings in that state. They have a website, they describe their activities, they describe their hearings, the entire thing is there. If you look Truth and Reconciliation Commission Maryland, you're going to find all the information there. And they have already finished, just recently finished. It's an excellent example. And they did that in alliance with universities there. So now, again, that's not a city commission, it's a state commission. So a little bit bigger, and they have investigated the entire history. So it's really, really very interesting and poignant, of course. Another interesting example, if you, again, and I will be happy to send you guys the links, but you look for Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Maine and the Wabanaki peoples. Again, you'll find the report of that commission, you'll find the activities that they carried out, and even a movie that they made, right? So pretty much I recommend to looking into that. And then the other thing that you obviously will find about US examples is the webpage of the Greensboro Truth and Reconciliation Commission. They have all the information there about how they chose the commissioners, when did they meet, what was their budget, and how the report looks like. So really, really interesting and completely recommendable. I'll make sure to send you guys the links and everything for your own investigation. Yep.
I was just going to ask if you could send all the links that you just mentioned.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'll make sure to send you guys a package with this kind of information so you guys look on it in your internal processes. That's great. So, in the time we have left, sorry, Dave, I think that we took a lot of time in this exercise, but I think it was productive. And now we have time for you leading the envisioning exercise. I'm going to perhaps lower the light a little bit so people can see you, and we can start with the exercise. And I think Lois Grace is going to share also some materials, right? Paper, documents, so that, oh, you have the papers with you. All right, perfect, perfect. Just a second. It's done already, just a second. So people already have the documents with them. Let me put you in the screen. We're lowering this a little bit.
Thank you.
And let me put you in full screen so that everybody, there you are. Everybody follows you. Dave, the floor is yours.
All right. And I also just wanted to share about that Maine made their Truth Commission permanent. They're now called the Permanent Commission for Maine, or the Permanent Wabanaki Commission. So some people, even after the Truth Commission is done, they spin off, become a nonprofit, or do whatever to continue to work to make sure. So you all, the first thing I just wanted to share, and you may want to write this quote down, is that I wanna approach this exercise using a different tool than we've used so far. And I mean, we've used it, but I wanna just say, so Sadia Hartman writes that so much of the work of oppression is the policing of the imagination. Let me say it again. So much of the work of oppression is the policing of the imagination. And, I'm just curious, what does that mean if there's anybody in the group who wants to just share what they think that means?
So I was thinking about, and Abby, when you were talking about policy, and I'm thinking working with the community. So how we were talking about having like a safe space, if you will, for people to be human, right, and learn. Planting these seeds in humans' minds and creating that the opening for something else to grow there. I think is kind of what you're talking about, because if you've been indoctrinated with a thing and you don't know anything else. So this can open up your mind to other experiences, other ways. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Exactly what I'm thinking. And this workshop comes from work. So before I was doing this kind of work, I studied peace and conflict studies. And one of the things that people who were still working on ending war did was a lot of imagining, what does a world without war look like? And sometimes you have to like visualize it and see it before it's possible. And I've done these workshops with communities who are working on reparations, and a lot of it is really like trying to imagine, and particularly for communities of color, it's really important to imagine a future outside of what this present tells us what the future will be, because the current systems don't imagine us there. And that's why you have authors like Octavia Butler and other folks like N.K. Jemisin and Alexis Pauline Gumbs, who have been trying to imagine futures where Black people, people of color, Indigenous folks are present and an active part of the world and bringing in things from their own culture. And in addition, I know it's a bad word, but the founder of critical race theory, his name was Derek Bell. He was a professor at Harvard Law School. He would do something called apocalyptic visioning. And he would tell stories about the trajectory of the world based on the kinds of archaic laws. And we don't even need to envision that because we're living it now. Yeah. We're living out like, what does continuous war get us? We're living out what happens with racism. We have no choice but to imagine something different. And so I want folks to close your eyes for a moment. Just breathe in deeply. And I want you each to remember a time in your life when you felt most safe. Don't just remember it. I want you to paint the picture in your head. When you were most safe, where were you? Who was with you? What did you feel? What sounds did you hear? What did you smell? So just take a moment and Paint that picture in your head. Who's with you? Was there a particular song playing? Was it your grandma's favorite recipe on the stove? Was it a hike to your favorite creek? Where did you feel most safe? And I'll be quiet and just let you paint a full picture of this in your head. Don't go to sleep. I want you to be full picture. If you're ready, I want you to open your eyes and start writing down, using as much description as possible, that safe place. What did it look like? Who are you with? What did you see? What did you smell? What sounds did you hear? Start writing. You should have a little sheet of paper. Write as much detail as possible, as much description. Give you about 1 more minute to write. All right, finish up those last sentences. Finish that sentence, put a period. You can stop with a comma and turn to one person and share what you wrote about. And I'll give you all just one more minute to do that.
Do a group of three.
So yeah, I just literally just like at home on the show with my kids. Georgia Love. Hearing my like my youngest probably no worry, we're snacks. Watching documentary.
So I can't even do the
Like.
Curled up on her bed right there.
Net.
So yeah, really, like.
I'm gonna ask that I know that wrap up the sharing. We have more things.
You feel very peaceful and you protect, you get the good things and you are eating, you handle responsibilities. The parents are, they want to send you to sleep, they send you to sleep.
It sounds like this prompt really opened some things up.
Yes.
Right? Important. Can I tell you, I'm having deep FOMO right now. I'm like, what y'all doing? What y'all talking about? What's on the table?
We wish you were
Next
here.
time you have to be here in person, Dave.
Yes.
Yes, I will be there. I will be there. So now we're gonna do more envisioning, and we're gonna do it closer to what we were just doing. But you just got an opportunity to like pump on that imagination descriptive tool that we all have. I want you to close your eyes again.
Every now and then the voice would come out of the group.
Let's close our eyes again, and we're going to the future. Close our eyes and imagine it is a year from now. And you wake up particularly energized on this morning because last night was the last truth process or last truth hearing. You were really excited, and I'm going to tell you that there was a feeling among you and your fellow commissioners, community members, city council, media, that this first part of the hearing was an unequivocal success. Every issue that came up, like when one person felt or a number of people felt traumatized, they were supported and heard. Now, you're turning on your computer, opening your smartphone. You're looking at the Citizen Press of Iowa City, and they're saying that you made history because of the importance of Iowa City in leading and telling this country how to do a truth commission, how to hold hearings. You turn on the radio, you're listening to NPR, and they're remarking that Iowa City made history by taking what began as demands in the protest after the murder of George Floyd that culminated beautifully in a way that was healing and a powerful end to this public component. Even the Times and NPR are talking about the hope that these truth-telling hearings and healing circles can have, and truth and reconciliation can have for our unhealed nation. There is a feeling of goodwill. You had a huge part of getting this commission there. Don't resist this. See this with your mind's eye. Don't resist looking at the accolades and well wishes in the news or hearing it from your colleagues. Don't resist it. I want you to think about what was your part specifically. How did you take your special talent to contribute to this process? Who did you have supporting and caring for you as you helped to make it through the long, difficult hours of uncomfortable truth-telling, questions, hearings? What are the ways that you helped create excitement and bring people to testify? What was that criteria that you created to bring those who needed to testify to the table? Was it the storytelling workshop that you proposed to help people prepare for truth-telling? What were some of the issues brought up? How did you deal with trauma? What obstacles did you help people to overcome? What obstacles did you overcome in your commission? Where were you creative? When the city told you they had no money for a coordinator, what gave you the idea to advertise for a volunteer corps for the commission? Who were the champions supporting the commission? In government? Community? What organizations did you connect with? The NAACP? Fraternities? Tribal councils? Rotary Club? How did you use your creativity to make the first public part of this commission a success? Paint a picture in your head. Draw the canvas. And when you feel ready, quietly begin writing in detail with as much description as possible to your role, your creativity, your talent to make the public part of the truth-telling hearings a success. I'll give you a little bit more time for that. Can write, and I'm going to just ask that if you can write silently just for another minute or so. All right, so we're going to begin talking to each other, but first, Eduardo,
Yes, Dave.
what are the 5 areas that you were just saying that people should be focusing on for the commission?
Yes. So the first one's conceptualization, meaning thinking of the objectives of a hearing. The second was preparation, meaning what are the tasks that need to be at hand in order to have a hearing. The third was implementation, meaning what happens during the hearing, how do you envision that day. The fourth was complementary activities, and that was basically all the rituality, all the rituals, the healing space that happens during the hearing. And the fifth was follow-up. That is, after the hearing has ended, how the commission ensures that there is going to be a continuous process.
So can we write one of those on each sheet of paper? So each one will have conceptualization, preparation. There'll be one heading on each paper and maybe post it around the room.
Just to make sure, sorry, Dave. So it's 5 topics. You are asking, right now we had groups discussing each of those topics. You want each of the groups to talk about the topic they discussed?
No, I want you to write the preparation,
okay,
conceptualization, so on and so on. One of those on each page. So you'll have 5 big papers.
Okay.
One says
Right, perfect.
one says preparation. One
All right.
says
Awesome. So Lois Grace now is bringing large pieces of paper and markers so that we can work on that. So I see Lois Grace and Stephanie are working on that.
So now, for the commissioners, I want you to turn to each other and begin sharing. What's the visualization that you came up? How did you bring your creativity, talent to bear on the successful outcome of these truth-telling hearings? If you can share that with one person, and as you come up with ideas, if they fit in a category of preparation, conceptualization, write it on the paper.
All right. Wonderful. So, okay, we start on that. Thanks, Dave.
And also feel free to draw something too, if you can't quite, put the thing into words. And I want to encourage folks, you don't have to just put them on those pieces of paper. Take your own big piece of paper and draw up what you need to.
Cool. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. You want to go first? Okay.
Yeah, I know. This is the first one. I don't know what's going on.
I think we're going to talk through this and see where figure out where we go, or like what our strengths are. Yes. And how we're going
And I just want to name that in this exercise, I think it's really important to share your own personal visualization first with somebody before you go to ideas, because something can get missed between like the creativity if you don't like put that out publicly, and the other person like doesn't hear it. It can be hard you could lose something. So just share your story first and then see what comes out of those ideas.
So Dave, right now, the commissioners are chatting with each other, discussing, following your prompts, and V and Lois Grace are putting around the room empty pages of paper so that everyone can start writing there what they think is interesting or appropriate. Thank you.
And I wonder, what do you think we got about? How much time do we have for that?
Let's see. We have little less than half an hour because it's 8:35 and this was planned to go till 9.
Sir, I'm going to give you all 5 minutes, and then I want to hear a little bit of report out. If that's possible, if folks have started writing, if folks want to start going to the big sheets. I really hate to break up the conversations. These are just beginning, but I do want to see if 1 or 2 people want to publicly share with everybody. Because I also want to hear what folks are coming up with. What are you dreaming about? What are you envisioning? What is your creativity bringing forth? Any volunteers wants to?
I'll speak. So I didn't, this is Marie. I don't know like a role specifically. I just kind of wrote some things down like strengths. I envisioned creating open, safe spaces for people really to be human and authentic, and creating space for that so that we can really get stuff on the table, look at it, and try to figure out how we're going to deal with it. And just like have, with the open mind, I guess like for me dealing with like the traumas, kind of that hard work, people needing support, and hopefully creating some unity is kind of what I envisioned.
And did you think about any specific tools or methods that might support that?
I guess I envision myself as the tool. I didn't have any methods, just kind of like my own life experience of dealing with conflict, not being scared of conflict, like understanding that's a part of being human and that's a part of life, and that's actually a good thing if we deal with it in the right ways. So if that meant, helping out with the hearings to try to create that openness and safety, if that means being someone who's sitting out of the hearings for people to go to if they just need to step away and they need someone to sit with, talk to, or whatever, we need to support them. And I think it depends too on like who we're bringing in and what the situation looks like. So it was hard to me like really envisioning like a space and more of that detailed piece.
I love that. And so it's really important to that what you said, because often we view conflict as something we don't want to get involved in. And just the way this society is structured, to a large extent, conflict is inevitable. So how do we wage it and turn conflicts into possibilities? Is there, and maybe if there's one other person who is jumping out of their seat to share what they're thinking about, or not even jumping out your seat, but like, okay, I could share.
I just found this exercise to be rather difficult. And I think it's because when you framed it as imagined a year from now, this being an unbridled success. For me, when I look at it, failure isn't an option, but neither is perfection. So I just had a hard time imagining an unbridled success. But I did try to think about what are some things I might bring to the table that would help to make it successful. And I was trying to think of what's a succinct way of saying it, and maybe enabling humility and embracing uncertainty.
So leaving space for emergence, right? So
Yes.
what does that look like in a commission? And I want to just name too that, like, as we talk about what decoloniality looks like, how do we create spaces for people or possibilities to emerge? Like, is there an art space? So people who don't get to testify get to draw or get to write their hopes, or, you know, what places are imagined and made present and available for people. What I do want to share is that I'm going to make my phone number available. One of the things that I constantly do is I come up with possibilities and solutions. I consider myself a conjurer of sorts, because I like to imagine and build it. And I think one of the things that we have to understand is that if we can imagine it, we can actually build it. And obviously nothing is ever perfect. There's I don't even know why that word exists. Things are what they are. And if you think about imagination, somebody imagined a car, a bus, and often in our society, our imagination only extends to harm. Like, how big of a gun can we make? And I think we have to cultivate the imagination for things that will make people's lives better and put them in community and connection with each other. The last thing I want to say about this is that another way I might have done this exercise is to imagine 5 years from now. What came out of, like, you're reading the headlines that, man, this commission, you know, created these recommendations that had an impact that are reverberating and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and get people to reverse engineer backwards. The idea is to dream it, to see it in your head, and reverse engineer based on who you are, the context that you have, the resources that you have, the people who you think you can meet, and create a plan from there. So this is something that folks can do on their own. You can take some time and imagine for yourself. But I think if we don't practice the tool for imagination, we'll let somebody else's imagination run our lives, run our cities, run our communities. So that's what I have. And the document that I'm working from will be shared to you and available to you. And I have my phone number on it too, so folks can call me. We're at the point where you all are putting paper to pen and plans, and that's where I come in. I want folks to call me and hit me up, text me, and I have a conversation with you. And I'm happy to be here brainstorming and running through possibilities and things to think about. I'll always have the other angle. I'm always down for that. I'm your angle guy if you need it. So thank you all for participating, and don't stop now just because we finished this particular exercise and our time is running out. But take this back home, and when you have a moment, spend some time dreaming.
Awesome.
Before you leave, David, thank you for making me miserable. Asking your miracle question made me realize I cannot imagine there not being racial injustice. Thank you very much. That's what I'm dreaming. Thank you. Bye.
We're gonna work on that. We're gonna work on that.
So Dave, thank you so much. This is an amazing exercise, and I really think it came pretty well right after the practical reflection we did, envisioning the possibility of a hearing. So it really, really looks amazing. I must also say that I'm already in the future of the imagination because I organized a public hearing and truth commissions 20 years ago. So I know how it looks like 20 years later, and it is really worth your time and your effort. You know this too. You are also in the future because you organized the Ferguson hearings after the killing of Mike Brown 6-7 years ago, which is when we met, and we have been friends ever since.
Next year will be 10 years.
Wow! And I remember Cori Bush co-organizing the hearings with you, with us, and now I'm proud when I see her in the House of Representatives. So, I mean, it really makes sense to do this. It really transforms the future. So, thank you so much. Yeah, that's our part, Chastity. Friends, we're really, really happy to have invested these 2 days with you, and we are here for you. So, just let us know what you need.
Thank you. I think the last thing on the agenda is closing reflections, but I know that we only have about 8 minutes. So if not, I'll let there be whatever other closing thing that's prepared.
We opened with our Native partners. We've learned if we open with our Native partners, we close with them. So
okay.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead. I know you want to say something.
I don't want to be here. No, I just want to say, we say Wopla, thank you, sincerely. And again, when we talk about listening, we really got to stay connected and really listen. And not just with our ears, but with our eyes, our heart, and our spirit. We have to be connected to the people who are suffering, to people who have a broken heart, and not just broken, but shattered. Same thing with their spirit, because of however experience they went through. So the TRC here and our new family here, we've got work to do. We're coming a long ways through the expertise and experiences of each and every one of us. And how we say in our native way, Mitaka we say, we're all related. Not be said, our Buffalo Nation, our Tree Nation, everybody. So we have to recognize our spirituality and our native ways. And in my little scribbling down here, I wrote like every day it's a teachable moment. It really is. When anger comes into play, or someone, the decision makers, whatever titles they have to make a choice to be a bully or to be arrogant, self-serving, privileged. They make a choice to feel like that and be like that. So we gotta pray for them. We really do, because it's so hard to lash out and slap them up or do something harmful. But then again, we go back into the darkness. So to me, we have to always be in light of Creator God and move forward, because we can't change the past, none of us. But the important thing, we got to learn from it. Don't stay back there. Let it go. That's why when we sage and we go and sweat out, smudge off, everything leaves us, should leave us, and should be replaced with compassion and love for another. Let the hatred, let the bitterness, let the jealousy, let it go. And so for me, I'm like a servant. I stay in the trenches with the people. And so is Manape. When I call Manape, he's right there without a question, because we're here to serve one another. And so with what we're creating here through the combined efforts and wisdom of everybody here, it's going to make great things happen for the state of Iowa and for the people that we serve. So we keep that in mind. Who do we serve, right? And I always say, with my new thing to people, when you look in the mirror, when everyone here, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? What do you see? And sometimes with the people going through addictions, I can't even look in the mirror. Some people can't even look in the mirror because of the hurt in the past. And so, but then what's more important, when people look at you, what do they see? Do they see a leader? Do they see someone that's approachable, that they can talk to? Or they see someone walk around, oh, okay, I'm sorry, make an appointment. It goes back to those choices. So I wanted to get that out there and then let Manape close this down with another song.
Thank you.
I want to acknowledge each of you that they have day jobs. And I know you two have been pretty quiet over there, but I thank you for being here and clocking in that overtime and such. I know. Yeah, I know that salary. Got that salary.
Tell your truth, Red.
I know sometimes all of us are, maybe our minds might be with our children at home, or pick up the phone and got to deal with issues like that. I think about that in these meetings. I see some of that, and I think about what's going on at your homes while you're here, and all that good stuff, and we're all going to go back to our daily lives and things, and like the work that we did here is pretty profound, really profound, and on top of the day-to-day things. So with all that in mind, folks that got on Zoom, the great input that they shared with us, the time and energy that they have over there, and I'm thinking about everybody here. So with that, I've selected a song, and in that song, it asks the Father, the Great Spirit, that we depend on you, that we depend on you, and that we give ourselves like in service, and for this being to take pity upon us and to help us. And so that's what I want to send you home with. I want to close this out. I want to send you home with that song, that blessing in your lives to keep doing what you're doing, to do the best you can, and traveling grace, however far you might have traveled. I think we probably traveled the farthest. Well, no, Eduardo. But thank you, Eduardo. And traveling grace to you, and I hope that you find your home the way you left it. But this time you're going to go home with a blessing. And you've been a blessing to us to come all this way and share your knowledge and your experience and such. So I have to explain all these things that I'm thinking about before I sing this song, so we all have an understanding, and to the councilwoman for being present. You showed up.
Oh.
And I kind of wonder where the other ones are at. I don't say that to have resentment against them, because maybe they have something, but I want to express my gratitude for you being present. And then the young ones that are here, sitting in the back, holding it down. I really admire your energy, and I can't wait to see you 20 years down the road, inshallah. Tankashla Tawachi, God willing. To see you down the road, and for you to experience these things, to watch us, to watch how this goes, and it'll be awesome to see what you do with that, And so those are all the things that I think about when I was trying to think of a song to share with you all. So I'm gonna ask everybody to rise and just want to beg your indulgence for a moment. Atewa kantanka o makiayo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi Shia che che chielo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi atewa kantanka o makiayo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi Shia che che chielo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi atewa kantanka o makiayo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi Shia che che chielo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi atewa kantanka o makiayo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi Shia che che chielo hai wani wachielo yo wani wachielo hey ahue atewa kantanka o makiayo hai oi Amataki I said.
Oh, good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before we leave.